Red Dead Redemption 2 has some of the most well-written set of characters in video game history, and we can all watch the incredibly complex character dynamics play out throughout the story of RDR2, but even Red Dead Online has some beautifully written characters. It's easy to love some, and it's also easy to hate the others, and today on the show, we'll be talking about some of the most hated characters in Red Dead Online, according to the players. When I asked the Red Dead community on Twitter what some of their least favorite characters were, these were the names that came up most, so let's start talking about them all. These aren't in any specific order, by the way, but let me know down in the comments if you personally enjoy or despise some of these characters, as I know every player is different and everyone feels differently about most things in this game. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video at any point or just find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it, and if you want to stay up to date with everything Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Online, consider hitting that subscribe button with your bell notifications turned on. So starting off with the character that I think people are most vocal about disliking and hating, we have HARRIET Davenport. And HARRIET is a naturalist and conservationist in this game. She states that she spent 3 years in the wilderness studying the hidden interconnection between animals of all species. She also has a sister who believes that she's an embarrassment to the Davenport family and name, and that she should get married and start a family. HARRIET despises the killing of all animals that the player does. She hates that Gus McMillan and his associates are killing animals for profit, and HARRIET's attitude towards us players will change based on whether or not we've recently killed animals, and if the player hasn't killed any animals for a good while, she will be very polite and act happy to see the player. But having recently killed animals will result in HARRIET condemning us and our actions, or even outright insulting us, and if the player has killed enough animals, she'll also spray them in the face with her hallucinogen spray, causing them to pass out and wake up nearby, and then she'll refuse to do business with the player for about 5 minutes or so. So we all know why we hate her. She sprays us over anything and everything. If you kill a legendary animal the second after you get sprayed by her and you're in that cooldown timer, she'll spray you again when her shop opens back up, and overall she just ruins the flow of the naturalist role. And I think Rockstar did this to add balance for some reason. You know, you can't farm missions over and over and over because you'll have to do that 5-minute cooldown every time you get sprayed, but honestly they could have just put a cooldown on the mission itself since they're doing this arbitrary thing in the middle, and this just upsets me more than just waiting to start the mission again. Honestly, getting sprayed, waking up nearby, needing to fetch my horse again. Usually she's across the river because I go to the HARRIET location in LeGras, etc. Next, we have the homeless guy at camp. He's always begging for food, he gets aggressive when you ignore him, you lose honor when you kill him, and fast travel cannot be used after you assault him. This guy, I thought when the Frontier Pursuits DLC released and we went to our trader business at camp and we just went back to camp in general, he would play into some overall larger story, but so far Rockstar hasn't done anything to this guy since that September 2019 Frontier Pursuits DLC. He's just kind of a waste of space in the game right now. Maybe that will change in the future, but as of right now, at least for me, he's definitely one of the most hated characters in Red Dead Online. Now, next up we have BERT Higgins. He is one of the moonshine buyers, and he's part of the customer list of our moonshine business, but unlike the other patrons, Higgins is ready to buy any moonshine the player produces at any time, regardless of its flavor and quality. However, he will pay a lower price for the player's batches than the other buyers. Now, although it isn't mentioned in the game, he appears to be suffering from severe alcoholism, and that's evident in his untidy appearance, and also the fact that he's going to buy any moonshine the player produces, and how he's always holding a moonshine bottle upon delivery to him. He's reliable, but he buys your moonshine for the absolute cheapest price, so he is ripping you off in the end. Next up, in terms of hated characters, we have the Boy, and he's really only known as the Boy due to his noticeably youthful appearance. He's a self-proclaimed gunslinger who runs a criminal enterprise based in the region of New Hanover, and our player can encounter the Boy, who will offer them various jobs. Basically, he often talks about the player that he's talking to, no matter who it is, claiming he could draw quicker than them or anyone else, and while giving the player a mission, he usually excuses his inability to do the job himself, with him being too trigger happy. Next up, we have AMOS Lansing. AMOS Lansing is a wealthy and well-respected landowner who is a business associate of Philip Leclerc and Jeremiah Shaw among the town of Blackwater's social elite, and at some point before 1898, he married Grace Brown, who became friends with Philip's wife, Jessica Leclerc. AMOS Lansing is a two-faced man. He hides behind his wealth and reputation to get away with the murder of Philip Leclerc, which he planned in order to gain control of his share of the business, despite already controlling a significant share, and as such, he is a very greedy individual. He's also also a liar, claiming that he wasn't involved with the murder in any way, and goes so far as to create forged documents that he further claimed Jessica had co-signed in order to achieve his goal. While he initially acts politely towards Jessica, he does state that he is sorry about her husband's death, and he only does so in order to maintain his reputation and his appearance on screen due to the meeting taking place in Blackwater, where he has the most influence. Now, AMOS refers to himself as a man of impeccable morality, and he believes he's untouchable due to his reputation, only to be quickly proven the opposite when Jessica shoots him square in the chest. And he also shows little regard to his associate, including Philip, whose death he was directly responsible for, and Teddy Brown, whom he calls a bad man and states that he's glad he was killed. Next up on the most hated character list, we have Joe. Joe is an associate of Micah Bell alongside Cleet, which automatically makes Joe one of the most hated characters in the game according to the players, and players can encounter Joe in Osmond Grove, where he's going to initially hold them at gunpoint when they enter his cabin unannounced, but eventually deduces that they're looking for work, and he asks if the player knows Micah, Cleet, or Samson Finch, and he begins talking about a man he'd murdered recently, whom he barely even knew. Joe then offers to pay the player if they kill another man and his associates, who they've been giving him trouble recently, and after this, Joe can be found again at his cabin and will offer paid killings, coach robberies, thefts, and other assassination missions to the player, and one of the biggest reasons players hate Joe is his missions always give negative honor. They're more fun missions, but they do ruin players' honor. Next up on the list, we have Marcel. Marcel is an old acquaintance of Maggie Fike and JB CRIPPS, and he worked as a chef for Jessica Leclerc, but was later kidnapped by a gang of outlaws and forced to serve as a cook for their moonshine operation. And Marcel, believe it or not, is briefly seen at Jessica Leclerc's camp when Horley returns from having freed the player from custody in the Red Dead Online prologue, and upon Horley's prompting, he finishes preparing Sue to be served to them, and if the player later chooses to begin a moonshine business, they'll be tasked by Maggie with rescuing Marcel from a group of outlaws in order to start producing moonshine, and after he is rescued, Marcel can be found at the player's moonshine shack from there on, serving as his own personal cook, and he manages the deliveries and production related portion of the operation. Now, last on the list, we have CRIPPS. JB CRIPPS is an elderly man who claims to have been breaking down animal carcasses and tanning hides in Wisconsin for a living since a very young age, basically at some point during the 1860s. Now, he'd also been trained in Portugal to become an acrobat for a short period of time, and other comments directly from him imply he's been both a soldier and an outlaw, and at some point prior to 1898, he became an associate of Horley and the widowed Jessica Leclerc. CRIPPS basically appears to be a hardworking man who has an acquired experience in quite a few different areas in his past, and at camp he can be seen working almost all the time, and on rare occasions, CRIPPS will play his harmonica or just rest on his stool. As a loyal camp companion, CRIPPS will also defend the protagonist, himself, and the camp if he spots enemies approaching. He always seems to be friendly towards the player, saying goodbye when they leave camp and welcoming them back upon return, but he's always unfriendly to the player's camp dog, who he says he always hates, doesn't like, or just doesn't like dogs in general. Now, he'll also occasionally tell the player stories about his own life adventures, like becoming an acrobat and training to be an acrobat in Portugal, crazy stories like that. And for some of those things, when players hear those lines over and over and over, they hate CRIPPS, and that is what puts him on this list. Now, with all that said, those are some of the most hated characters in Red Dead Online. If you guys want to see a most hated character list for Red Dead Redemption 2 story, let me know it down in the comments. But I think with all that said, we're going to wrap things up right here. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video today, and if you did, hopefully I earned your like on it. And of course, if you are new to my channel and you want to stay up to date with all the best Red Dead Online and Rockstar Games content, consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out on a single thing we post here on the channel. We consistently talk about updates, news, information, tips, tricks, and even leaks, and we'll keep you guys updated here on the channel daily. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you want to follow me over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected with me outside of YouTube, and you're more than welcome to ask me any questions on those platforms. You can follow me at HazardousHDTV, and all of my social media links can be found in the description down below. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching, everyone. Hopefully you all have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys in the next Red Dead Online video. Adios, amigos.